know which is more bizarre, the fact that Guantanamo Bay has a McDonald's or that it has a gift shop. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2021 legal drama, The Mauritanian. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all that extra content. The Mauritanian stars Tahar, Rahim, Jodie Foster, and Benedict Cumberbatch, and was directed by Kevin Macdonald. Based on Mohamedou Ould-Slahi's 2015 memoir, Guantanamo Diary, it tells the true story of Slahi's experiences as a prisoner at Guantanamo Bay, as well as his pursuit for legal justice. Believe it or not, this was actually my first 2021 movie. Sounds crazy, considering it's February and I've already got nearly 100 movies under my belt this year, but I've been spending all of my movie watching time on 2020 catch-up these last few months. I've still got a little more catch-up to do, but now seemed like a good time to start diving into this New Year's film offerings too. A big thank you to STX Films for sending me a screener of The Mauritanian, cause it ensured my 2020 viewings got off to a good start. I tend to enjoy legal dramas quite a bit. It's a genre whose structure and execution don't typically hold many surprises, but luckily the actual cases at the heart of these movies generally provide enough variation for me, especially when they're based on a true story. And The Mauritanian is exactly one of those types of movies. A fairly standard formulaic legal drama with a compelling true case at its center. Personally, I don't mind that formulaic structure. This is more of a case-building legal drama than a true courtroom drama, but it still has that occasionally dry, legal jargon-filled, dialogue-heavy quality to it that some might find a bit boring. The frequently slow pace and 130-minute runtime probably won't help with that either, but if you like the genre, or can at least get engaged with the actual story, it's a surprisingly compelling watch. Although Guantanamo Bay and the atrocities that occurred there have been highlighted in quite a few movies over the last decade or so, I thought this movie offered something a little bit different from what we've seen in the past. In spite of his best-selling memoir, I had never heard of Mohamedou Ould-Slahi, and I think that made for a more impactful watch. I didn't know who he was, so I didn't have any inkling of what the outcome of his case would actually be, and so the movie was more gripping as a result. It took some time to get a feeling for who I could trust and which characters were hiding something. Each new revelation in the case was as much of a surprise to me as it was to them at the time. In addition to being a gripping story and an interesting watch, I found Slahi's story to be pretty affecting. We only get snippets of information about his past, so the majority of the movie focuses on him as a prisoner at Guantanamo Bay. This film is certainly a condemnation of the prison and the torturous interrogation methods used there. There's a somewhat lengthy sequence that highlights the torture Slahi underwent during his time in the so-called special projects. It's presented in a kind of hazy, hallucinatory, dreamlike way, and although it's not as graphic as you might anticipate, it's still as sickening and stomach-churning as you'd expect. But one of the things I found so moving about Slahi's story was that, in spite of all of this inhumane treatment, he never lost his humanity. Bizarrely, he was able to maintain a sense of humor and a decent rapport with the guards in his cell block. The most impactful and telling part for me, though, was his relationship with Marseille, another prisoner who he never saw, but who had an adjacent enclosure in the exercise yard. The legal drama core and Slahi's story both make for a strong movie, but it's definitely Tahar Rahim's performance as Slahi that elevates this film. He really embodies this role, to the point where there were moments that I kind of forgot that he was an actor. You'd probably expect the torture scenes to be his big performance moments, but I actually found the quieter scenes much more impactful. He's got this charming but disarming quality to him that has you questioning your trust in the character. But at the same time, he's got this reserved, almost hyper-sincerity to him that makes you question your questioning. It's just a very strong performance all around. An understated one, but a strong one. The other performances in this movie are good, but I don't think they're as strong. However, due to the more overstated nature of those performances and the star power behind them, I do think they're going to end up getting more recognition, which is kind of a shame. Aside from Rahim, who was the clear standout, I think Jodie Foster gave the best performance. It wasn't anything overly remarkable, but it was still quite good. We mostly get to see this very tough exterior to her character, especially when she's interacting with other people. But there are a few moments where we see that exterior crack a bit to reveal the emotion bubbling underneath. Nearly all of the other characters come and go without much consequence, but I do want to very briefly mention Benedict Cumberbatch. His character was interesting, and his performance was fine, but it does take a little bit of time getting used to that accent. So, while I enjoyed this movie quite a bit, I don't think it's going to go down as one of the greats in the legal drama genre. I'm not convinced it's even going to go down as one of the very goods. And one of the big reasons for that is the focus of the story. I'm tempted to say that it's because it's unfocused, but that's not really an accurate description. It's more that the focus is too divided. Some of that focus is on Slahi's time and experiences at Guantanamo, some of it's on Nancy Hollander as she builds her case to defend him, and some of it's on Stuart Couch as he tries to build the case against him. These three components don't exactly get equal screen time, but they feel like they get equal focus. And don't get me wrong, I think they were all genuinely interesting pieces of the story. I just think that by including so many points of view and splitting the focus so much, it prevented any of the pieces, and by extension, the whole, from feeling complete. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one is Tahar Rahim's performance as Mohamedou Slahi. I haven't had much experience at all with him as an actor, but he was by far the strongest aspect of this film, performances or otherwise. There's a lot to this role on an emotional level. He's a prisoner, so physically, he's not able to do all that much. The vast majority of his scenes are just him sitting at a table talking with somebody. But that's where his performance really shines. It's understated and reserved, but he's able to get so much across with just his words and his face, and it feels like such a genuine performance. The second pro is how affecting this story is. This is a movie that very easily could have taken a broad brush to the topic of prisoner torture at Guantanamo. I mean, the film's underlying message is certainly one of condemnation of the prison, but by focusing in on a single real prisoner story, it just makes it that extra bit more impactful. Even with films or stories about the most horrific things, it can be hard to feel the full weight of it without that person to latch onto and connect with. And Mohamedou Slahi is that person here. His story alone is affecting and infuriating and hard, but one of the big lasting takeaways from this film is that he wasn't alone there, and that there were hundreds of other people like him whose stories have never been told, and probably never will be told. On the con side, the biggest issue was the divided focus of this film. It tries to tackle too much related to the story. And it's totally understandable when you're basing something off of a true story. How do you decide what gets put in and what doesn't? Which real people are represented as characters and which of them aren't? And so the movie tries to represent things from three different perspectives. Slahi's, his attorney Nancy Hollander's, and the appointed prosecutor Stuart Couch's. All three of these vantage points have their own subplots and story threads, so even with a 130-minute runtime, it's just too much story. Again, I thought it was very interesting to see all of these things, but it would have felt like a much more cohesive and effective film if only one of these three components, maybe two, had been focused on. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying any of the films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give The Mauritanian 3.5 out of 5 paws. I thought this was a solid, albeit traditionally executed legal drama, with a standout performance from Tahar Rahim. I would recommend The Mauritanian to people who like legal dramas. If you're not a fan of the genre, this probably won't be the film that'll convert you, even with its strong central performance. It has its moments, but it's definitely a slow burn and would probably feel too dry and formulaic to non-fans. Those who don't mind the standard legal drama structure, or can look past it, will be rewarded with a compelling and emotionally frustrating story. If you like The Mauritanian, I would recommend The Report. This is another recent film that tackles the subject of prisoner torture from a slightly broader perspective. Rather than being a legal drama highlighting a single prisoner's case, it's more of a political drama about the Senate's investigation of the rampant torture. If you're interested in another recent investigatory legal drama, you might want to watch Dark Waters. It's another movie that focuses on the case building side of things, and it too involves some pretty significant cover-up plots. And if you want a period legal drama with a little more balance between the case building and the courtroom side of things, you should check out The Trial of the Chicago 7. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen The Mauritanian? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite period legal drama? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe or at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainely Movies, the way life should be.